it really does teach you how to take care of things that are bigger and smaller than yourself.
You just heard from this week's guest. I'm David Hyde. I'm joined by my friends Christian Gossett and Chris Simon. Welcome to the Superfan podcast, where the people who make the comics you love talk about the things they love that aren't comics.
Marjorie Liu is a New York Times bestselling novelist, attorney, and acclaimed comic writer. Her work with Marvel includes X-23, Black Widow, Han Solo, and Astonishing X-Men, which featured Marvel's first openly gay superhero marriage. Liu also co-created Monstrous with artist Sana Takeda, a groundbreaking epic fantasy series that has won 5 Eisner Awards, including Best Writer, making Liu the first woman to win the award. Monstrous is also the longest-running creator-owned comic book series written and illustrated by 2 women. With Takeda, Liu also co-created The Night Eaters, a horror series blending family drama and supernatural suspense. She has authored over 19 novels, teaches comic writing at MIT, and is a prominent advocate for diversity in literature and comics. Welcome, Marjorie. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited, I don't even know what to do. And what I love about the Superfan podcast is that it's this wonderful place where we talk about something you love. And in this case, gardening.
Gardening,
which is, it's so perfect. I'm going to let you begin. I'm not even going to go into why I think it's perfect. I'm sure it'll come out during the course of the conversation. So you're not a fan of gardening. One is not a fan of gardening, right? Tell me about how one is a gardener. How did you come to it?
Oh, shit. First of all, thank you so much for having me here tonight. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be speaking with you both. And how did I come to gardening? Well, I think I got my first taste of gardening actually at home, when I was a kid, because the only family heirloom my mom's side of the family actually has is an amaryllis that's been passed down from mother to daughter since 1820. Wow. I know. For over 200 years, my family has kept this thing alive, and they call it the lily. And it's not like your store-bought Christmas amaryllis. Like, this thing is the OG wild type that the British, botanists and explorers used to bring back from South America. And starting in the 18th century. And I don't know who gave it to her, but my great-great-great-grandmother received this as a gift, and then the bulbs kept dividing, and she kept passing them down, and everyone kept passing them down, and the thing is as tough as nails. It's a tough little survivor, reproduces like crazy, and the blooms are the most beautiful orange peach color I've ever seen, and they last only a day or two, but it's probably the most precious thing I have, and the one thing I would grab in a fire. And it was just always around. It was a plant that was always around, and we always had the family story. And every time it would bloom, my mom would say, "Oh, that's, your great grandmother's here visiting us, and say hi to her," and that sort of thing. And so I think that's really what got me first sort of just aware of the magic of gardening and plants. And then also I grew up. Yeah, everything's a process, right? In the same way I was passionate about books when I was a kid, I guess I was also passionate about nature. And I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and I was always running around the woods with my dogs, and the cats would follow me out there, and I'd play for hours. And then later, when I was in undergrad and law school, I would take cross-country road trips by myself to Montana and Wyoming just to hang out in nature. And then after that, after I sold my first book, I lived on the family farm in Indiana for 8 years. And I was always in the country. I was in farmland. I was in the woods. So but I wouldn't say I was actually a gardener yet. I really just love nature, and I love plants, but I wasn't into gardening. I just like to be around it.
Sure. For those of us that don't know, or that might not know, can you tell us more about an amaryllis? First of all, that's the coolest name ever.
An amaryllis, you see them all the time, whether or not you realize it, on Christmas. And usually they just look like a giant bulb. And there's like a green stalk comes out of it with little leaves, and it's a beautiful blossom. And you can find them, they originated in South America, in Central America. And in the 18th century, like I said earlier, British botanists brought some back to England and they became a craze. People just became obsessed with them and having them. And, eventually, like, I don't know the full history of the amaryllis, but it became sort of a holiday plant. And now you can get them at Target, at the cash register during the holidays, or your grocery store. They're everywhere.
It's so funny because my neighbor just got one for Christmas.
Yes.
She was showing it to me. The bulb comes glued on a slab of like wood. Yeah, bizarre. And it's blooming, and she was like, I don't know what to do with this thing. It's an amaryllis. I don't know. And I said, oh, well, take it off the wood, first of all.
That might help.
Yeah. And then plant it. I said, it'll keep regrowing and regrowing. And it did. It's sitting right next to her rose bush. And she's just astounded because she had no idea what it was. And now it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And they're beautiful. They're beautiful flowers.
They are. I love them. And I wish I lived someplace warm because if I did, I would plant some of these outside and just let them go and just let them spread, which I know they would love to do. But instead, every few years I have to repot them. And when I do, it's insanity because again, they just won't stop dividing. I have endless pots of these things.
Do you give them away?
I have started giving them away to people that I really trust because it is part of the family. And I know it might seem like a strange thing to say, but I feel like I've been entrusted with it. And
that really doesn't sound strange at all.
I don't want to be the person it died with. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
After all these years.
That's the burden of legacy, right? It's like,
right.
So no, that's fascinating. Okay. So thank you so much for that. I'm blown away. I love this show.
I have a follow-up question about this though. How many people have you given it to? Because that is both an amazing gift, but also as somebody who has a dog that is, I believe the word insane, we had to move all of our plants out of the house because I walked in and I was like, what happened in the living room? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, did you decide to cut all the plants? I was like, no. And he ate everything.
Oh my gosh.
Everything.
Your dog's lucky to be alive.
He is insane and stubborn. But he's like Wolverine. He heals very, very quickly, right? So he does crazy, reckless things, and then he's fine.
That's a very lucky dog.
Yeah.
So
Not all of my dogs have been so lucky.
I'd like to ask you mentioned that you said you had this love for nature and you were surrounded by it. And what was the crossover point for you? You yourselves just said, I wasn't a gardener yet. I just love nature. So what was it that caused that transformation from someone who appreciated it to someone who actually engaged in it?
The pandemic. Yes, the pandemic. Stuck at home and watching way too many YouTube videos about nature and gardening and and I was searching for anything that was life affirming at that point. And I said, well, why not? You know what? I got time on my hands. Let me experiment with growing things. And I had a sunny little patch. And the first year was interesting because I learned a lot. First of all, I learned that there's a lot of rats around here. I learned that.
Oh,
I learned about rats. I learned about raccoons in the neighborhood, and I learned about all the squirrels.
Yeah.
And so I learned about not having enough sun. I learned about, all the mistakes you make. And so that was my first year. And then the second year, I was like, all right, I'm going to do things differently this time. And I got some raised beds. I had a balcony that was sunny. So I moved everything off the first floor and put everything on the balcony, where it was really sunny. I didn't have to worry about pests. And that's when things got interesting and a little better. And the first year it was tomatoes. It was the basics. It was tomatoes. It was herbs, whatever I could cram in there. And it just became an obsession. Like I don't know how to describe it exactly, but once you sink your teeth into it, once I sank my teeth into it, it became this experiment. It was a puzzle. It was kind of magical, just watching things grow. And I would be gone for a week and I would come back and they'd be 3 times the size as, when I left them. And I thought, well, this is just amazing. And so I just kept going and going and going and then expanding. So, any open space I had, I basically just commandeered. I just took over anything that was sunny. Suddenly there was a vegetable growing. I was watching YouTube videos on how to fertilize plants, how to keep out pests, the best way to grow tomatoes. I don't know. That's how I started to spend all my time. And now here I am, years later, and I spend the winter with a little notebook taking notes and making sketches of how I'm going to lay things out and what I'm going to plant and the seeds I'm going to experiment with. I don't know what to tell you.
I totally understand that. I mean, growing something from seed is the key, because you can go out and you can buy a little seedling and you can plant it, and that's great. But when it comes from you sprinkling a little seed in the soil and then you see it sprout and then get big and then produce something you can eat and it's good,
Chris,
it's magical.
It is magical. Let me tell you, like you just said, I think there is something truly wondrous about a seed. I take a tomato seed, for example. It looks utterly small and insignificant. It is the tiniest fleck. And, you blink and you'll miss it. But you put it in some soil, you add water, and suddenly it wakes up. It opens, something emerges, roots, stem, pushing just through the soil, trying to get to the light. And it's suddenly just more than what it was. And then you see tiny leaves. And then and like you said, suddenly it's producing food. And it does feel like a miracle. Yeah. It absolutely feels like a miracle. And recently I started reading this new nonfiction book, science book called The Light Eaters by Zoe Schlanger, which is about plant intelligence. And there's something she writes in the beginning, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but she says something along the lines of plants are the very definition of creative becoming.
Ooh.
And I feel that very, very strongly. Gardening, I think, might at this point be the only thing I'm more passionate about than writing, because for me, it's utterly life affirming.
Agreed. Yeah. And there's also such a complication that comes with it. So if you delve into it, you find out that things are compatible. This next to this, and it does better, and it they feed off each other, and it's so interesting and so amazing. Oh my God.
No, I love it. Plants, the idea of plants constantly communicating with each other. What was it? There was another thing I read talking about, what was it? Talking about how flowers, it was an Ed Young article. First of all, I recommend Ed Young's articles, his books, all of them. He's an amazing science writer. I really loved his book, An Immense World. If folks haven't read that, it's life-changing. It really makes you look at the world in a completely different way. But I remember some time ago, there was an Atlantic piece he wrote talking about the acoustic life of plants. And I can't remember all the details. And he talks about how this research is still controversial, but that what's become clear is that plants can send airborne chemical messages to each other. They can warn each other about danger, they can talk to each other through fungi that connects roots, but they can also hear. And so scientists ran these studies where plants can sweeten their nectar in response to the sound of wing beats, like pollinator sounds.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, and it's the flowers themselves that are the ears. And so petals vibrate when they're hit with the sound of a bee's wings, and it shoots a message. And it's all about conserving energy, because why have your nectar be sweet all the time? It's a waste of energy. And so they only do it when the flower hears a pollinator nearby, and the flowers themselves, the petals, vibrate, sends the message. Suddenly you're like, boom, it's time to sweeten this nectar so we can get this bee to us ASAP.
Incredible.
And it's amazing. I love it. I love plant science.
Oh my God, it absolutely is. A friend of mine, a legendary visual effects practitioner, he was able to shoot bees and flowers on a Phantom HD, which is a Phantom HD, for those of you that don't know, is like thousands and thousands and thousands of frames per second. And he was so blown away by it. He was a photographer as well. And he said, what I couldn't believe, that the way that the bees and the flowers were swaying in the wind, almost like they were communicating. And I absolutely, I should find you that footage, because it really is amazing. There's this kind of rhythm to them with the swaying of the wind and the flowers and the bees and the hovering. And you can't see it with the naked eye. You can only see it at that speed.
I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that.
So cool.
I didn't even know I was going to tell that story, so thank you. I was like, I'm sitting here saying, what do I know about gardening? Chris is going to have to take this one. But
Chris, do you garden?
I do.
Tell me about your experience.
Well, when I was in grade school, this is where I got started. I had to do a science fair project, and I couldn't think of anything, and so I decided to do plants that get talked to versus plants that don't. And see which one grew better. And of course, it was the plants that you talk to that definitely grew better. Now, Of course, you can say it's science and that it's, the oxygen that you're breathing on them and blah, blah, blah. But, for me as a child, it was much, much, much more than that. I thought it went beyond science. I thought, that they were friends, and they can hear you. They hear your voice. So from that point forward, I got super into gardening. And I started off with herbs. So it was a bunch of herbs because I loved tea and I loved, just everything about herbs, like the way they spice the food. And I would grow all those. And now here we are. And I also have a raised garden bed, and it's, from seed. And it's cucumbers, it is onions, it's tomatoes, I have peppers, tomatoes, like I just do them all, and lettuce. My goal is to just be able to do one huge salad that I can, and just, sustain that, just have vegetables all the time. I mean, and I have experimented with snap peas, which are super interesting to grow, the ones that go up and the ones that down, oh my gosh, sweet potatoes, all of it. So I just find relaxation, joy. When I'm there, it's like a happy place. Just feel better.
Chris, there's nothing more fun than the experiment in the garden.
Yeah.
I threw down some snow peas a couple weeks ago, and they're finally coming up, and it's we could start nerding out over different varieties of snow peas and different varieties of tomatoes and all of it. And, And then I also so Chris, let me ask you something. Have you noticed this with, you're in a warmer climate than I am.
I am.
But, one thing that I discovered is that my tomatoes started coming back each year. So all the tomatoes that would drop into the soil, they would spend winter just buried, and then in the spring, seedlings would start coming up. And I didn't know that was a thing. And I went to my grandmother, who grew up on a farm, and I said, Grandma, I'm having tomato seedlings pop up everywhere. And she's like, yeah. She's like, when I was a kid, we never planted tomatoes. They would just come back each year. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this is the first year where I feel like, even though I went ahead and I planted some, Mountain Magic, Mountain something tomato seeds. Yeah. It's an indeterminate. It's supposed to be like a little cherry tomato, very vigorous. I did plant some of those seeds, but honestly, even if I hadn't, I have so many tomato seedlings coming up in my garden this year just from random drops.
Yeah.
From last year.
Another one that does that. I don't know if you've ever planted sunflowers, but I grew one once out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Boy, it was huge. I did it in a pot and it was like taller than me. It was nuts. But what I didn't realize is that all the sunflower seeds come from the middle, pop out, but they drop and they plant again. And then you get like 1,000.
Okay. I got to try that. I haven't. So I haven't done sunflowers. I did the cousin. I did sunchokes.
Oh.
And let me tell you, these things, first of all, they're beautiful. 10 feet tall, whatever. They're absolutely beautiful. They look like a sunflower, except not. I did not realize how quickly sunchokes would spread underground.
Yeah, they're like rhubarb. Rhubarb, man, you can't
it's holy shit. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, they're coming up everywhere and I keep pulling them and I throw them to the rabbits in the yard because the rabbits love them and they're getting fat off of sunchokes. And of course I'm eating them in the fall. I'm eating them, whatever. But this time of year, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's great. I guess I'm always going to have sunchokes around to eat, but I just didn't realize they spread like that. And also I didn't realize that morning glories spread like crazy.
Those are nuts. Like, if you can grow those up, grow them up.
Yeah.
But they'll overtake things like entire houses.
I'm learning that now.
Mint is like that too, right?
Yes.
Yes. I have some friends who are like having this duel with mint that's gone on for years.
Yeah, that was my mother. She literally had rocks poured on top of the soil because she couldn't get rid of the mint. We had mint jelly. We had mint everything for years. And finally she was like, I'm pouring rocks on it. And so she did, and it came up through the rocks. And I don't know how she eventually got rid of it. I think she paved it over with cement or something. I don't know. But it was just it was nuts. Mint is crazy. Yes.
Mint's crazy. I made the very deliberate, possibly dangerous choice to plant free range mint without constraints in one of my raised bed. In the same raised bed, I have the sunchokes, which have also just decided to, take over. So I was like, go for broke. I've got the sunchokes. They're taking over. because I'm going to put mint in here as well and just see what happens. Partially because in previous years, I was always putting mint in a much smaller pot because I didn't want it to go crazy and I never had enough. And I realized it feels very luxurious to me to go and be able to pick mint and have some fresh mint tea after dinner. And I consumed so much of it that I was just like, all right, you know what? Fine. Let me just let it go wild and take over and see what happens. If it can beat the sunchokes,
I was going to say,
good luck.
It's a battle. Who can get over?
Exactly.
What a wonderful thing to have that characteristic, right? Because mint is so wonderful. I don't know anybody that doesn't love mint.
Yeah. If something's going to have to grow wild and take over something, at least it's mint, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And plus, if you grow long enough, it does flower, and it smells pretty.
Yeah. No, I'm really trying. I had my herb garden this year. The tarragon has decided to be Bigfoot sized. It's gotten massive. I planted a ton of chamomile. Is there a right way to pronounce that?
I've always said chamomile, right?
Yeah. Okay. So chamomile.
Mm-hmm.
I planted a lot of chamomile this year, which is incredibly good when it's fresh. It tastes like apples.
Mm. Is there anything you can't grow? Because I can't grow rosemary to save my life. So I don't know why.
You know what? Rosemary, I can only buy it from the nursery. Yeah. I buy it from the nursery. I save myself some headaches. I put it in a pot. Sometimes, it survived one winter. This winter it didn't. I had to do it fresh. The thyme does great. I've had a lot of problems for some reason with eggplant.
Oh.
And I don't know why exactly. I don't know if it's just not getting, I have it in a sunny spot. I don't know if it doesn't like the pH of the soil. I don't know what it is. They just get kind of scraggly. I just haven't had a ton of luck.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Are you in your 40s and still like playing with action figures?
We've got the action figure for you, Mary Tyler Moorhawk.
Mary Tyler Moorhawk action figures. Mary Tyler Moorhawk action figures.
Mary Tyler Moorhawk! Eisner Award-nominated cartoonist Dave Baker's mind-bending graphic novel Mary Tyler Moorhawk is equal parts sweeping action-adventure graphic novel
And dystopian detective story.
that weaves back and forth between worlds, touching on everything from corporate personhood to mutant sharkmen to the meaning of fandom
And reality itself.
It's a show you don't remember and a book you won't forget. Mary Tyler Moorhawk's retro action figures are available at the finest toy stores everywhere.
Mary Tyler Moorhawk, the action. Mary Tyler Moorhawk, the action figures.
I'm going to get that! Welcome back to the Superfan Podcast.
With today's guest, Marjorie Liu. I've heard you say this, Chris, and I want to ask you, Marjorie. You said something moments ago. You said this year the Tarragon decided to, right?
Oh, yes.
That's something I have. Everybody that gardens says that. Oh, this year the plant decided to do this. Tell me about that. Tell me about this relationship between you and trying to coax them to make the decisions you want them to make.
I think it's what Chris said earlier. Like the plants, like, listen, my plants feel like little friends. And, when I see, it's an interesting thing because I am very much in the spirit of the wild gardener, in that sense where if a tomato seedling pops up in the soil, I really hate to move it because I'm like, well, clearly you're happy there. You survived there. I'm only going to move the seedling if I think it's really like, as it gets bigger, it's going to be a problem. But if it comes up in a spot where it's not perfect, but it's okay, I leave it. Cause I'm like, do you, boo? Like, you made this choice. You survived. But it's the same thing. When I say the tarragon decides to do this, other plants decide to do that, there is a part of me that feels like they are another life. It is another living creature and it's doing its thing. And my job is to sort of help it along and if it's looking, make sure it has enough water, make sure it has enough light, prune it if I need to, make it comfortable. And just give it its best chance to exist. And I feel like, as a gardener, as someone who loves to garden, and Chris, I think you probably understand this too. There is a sense of stewardship. Like I'm enjoying this. I'm partaking of this. I consume what I grow. But then it's also, I have a responsibility to take care of these things as well. And not just, be sloppy and uncaring about these plants that are in my care. I do feel responsible for them. And if they die, when the plants die, it happens, the weather's bad, whatever. I think gardening teaches a person a lot about life, a lot about patience, about accepting the importance of timing and luck and preparation, about, but also about taking care of things other than yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And there's also like this puzzle to it where they can't talk to you. They can't tell you what they need. You got to figure it out. And so it's like, well, if you don't like it here, maybe you'll like it here. Move them and say like, hey, and then they thrive. And you're like, we got it. Yeah, we got it. And it is. It's like it's almost like, well, I want to kind of relate it to a dog, which like you don't speak the same language. And you can't really understand each other, but you can figure things out.
You can figure things out. You can make it work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how you have both narrativized the experience, though, because we do just a little tiny bit of gardening, right? And we do rosemary. So the fact that you guys don't, and we have successfully done it for many years, I'm very proud now, because mostly what I've discovered is plants die when it's 115 degrees in my backyard, no matter what I do. And it will be 115 degrees a couple times a year. Yeah. And we have one flower bed that I've almost just put a skeleton in at this point because we have all of these. We celebrate the Halloween season with great gusto. And so half of our garage is like the spooky side of the garage with skeletons. And then we have this empty flower bed where no matter what goes in it, it dies immediately. So I've been thinking I should just put the skeleton there year round, dress them up for the appropriate holiday season, and make it feel, bring a level of joy to this haunted flower bed. Because nothing is there. It doesn't matter. I've tried a million things, and it's just too hot.
David, have you tried Oyas? No. Have you tried burying Oyas in the soil?
No.
So, Oyas are, they are like, there's different names for them, but they're basically like a ceramic container.
Okay.
With a cap, and you bury them in your garden, and the water actually seeps through the clay. And so it's this constant, just low-key watering of the plants around them. And the plants, the roots naturally know how to reach the Oya, and they'll go to the Oya to be near that moisture. But you just fill them with water. You bury them in the soil, you fill them with water, and that way your flower bed is constantly moist. And you don't have to worry about, you water your plants like once every 3 days, like, or whatever, depending on how hot it is, you check them. But that way you don't have to, yeah, sure. Like the sun could just the heat can blast plants no matter what you do. But if it's also just an issue of moisture in your soil, then I would recommend using Oyas and experimenting with that.
Christian, the wine bottles that I have.
Yeah.
That's what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Clay point thing, and then I stick a bottle in it that's filled with water, and it waters them gradually. Yeah, and it's crazy because sometimes, like, if you leave it in there long enough and it's like the roots just like kind of wrap around it, and they just like form a little circle. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I appreciate this tactical and very helpful advice, but I'm going to go with the fact that it is a haunted flower bed.
Sorry.
Okay. I have my narrative and I'm going to stick.
Oh.
Austin, have you grown anything?
No. When I got really excited one year. I was a child in elementary school, and there were these spinner racks of seeds back then in the grocery stores. And I wanted to grow carrots because I loved carrots at the time, and probably to fix my eyesight, which has never been very good. And I said, "Mommy, can I buy these carrots?" She bought them, and I took them to our yard in North Hollywood, California, and I made a little. I basically cleared out some earth. I put the seeds in the earth. I read the instructions on the packet. I put the packet on a stick at the edge, at the end.
Aww.
And nothing ever came of this, except for one day I came walking home from school. I watered them and looked at them and talked to them because I heard that very early on. I think it was Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of. They did a show about plant communication. And I was like, oh, well, that makes total sense. They're alive, right? Ours are not the only channels of consciousness. This totally makes sense to me. And so I tried and tried. One day I came home from elementary school and there was a huge carrot at the end of the row, and the packet that had been on the stick was now on the carrot. And that was my dad playing a practical joke on me. My father was terrible.
But were you excited when you saw the carrot?
The wonder of a child. I absolutely believed that I had done it, right? I was like, I've done it. I should grow things all the time.
Oh, I love that.
I do admire gardening. I do have, in my front yard, I do have nasturtia.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so I haven't eaten any of them yet. Can you please help me? How do I prepare them? Just take them, how do I harvest them? How do I serve them?
You can just, like if you have a salad, Chris, have you done this? You can just take the blossoms right off and you put them on your salad. And, they're great. And then the leaves, as far as the leaves go, I have seen recipes where people will use them almost like cabbage wraps. Ah. And so, for example, if you have like a dumpling filling, something you would use for gyoza, you could just put it inside a nasturtium, wrap it up, and then steam it.
Yum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are just blossoming right now. I've got all of them. I go, okay, and you feel, like you said, there's this responsibility. I'm like, there's these beautiful nasturtium in my yard. I have to eat them.
It's like that. When I moved into this place, there's this huge cactus that's on the side, right? And it's huge. It towers over the house. It like reaches out, and it produces prickly pear. And so, wow. Yeah, when I first came in, I had to like do research because I'd never done anything with prickly pear before. And now it's literally all I see everywhere I go. I mean, it's just like prickly pear this and prickly pear that. And I'm like, ooh, I could make that and this and that. Yeah, and it's very exciting. So is there like something new that you haven't grown that you are going to try and grow eventually? Or?
Oh, that's a really good question. I really wish I could have fruit trees. You know, like I started doing research on having a patio fruit tree, and so I actually tried. I didn't, you know, I went to the garden center and I bought an Asian pear tree, that was, self-pollinating, and cause it had all these different grafts on it. And I was really proud of myself. I'm like, I'm going to do it. Dragged it. I somehow got this thing in my tiny car, and I dragged this thing up to the balcony. I positioned it. It was great. It already was, you know, it had the buds. It was fruiting. I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. And then the squirrels noticed it. And, so I thought, okay, no problem. Fine. I'm going to get, I went and I bought fruit protection nets, right? And I tied them. Around the branches. I tied them around the developing Asian pears. And I'm like, I got this. I'm going to have an Asian pear. I'm going to be eating fruit from a tree. Like, this is wild. I'm so happy. And then one by one, they just started disappearing. And one day I'm in the kitchen washing my dishes, and I look out and I see a squirrel running up the tree with one of these bags with an Asian pear in its mouth. Like, it decided just to go grocery shopping and carried this thing off. And that was that. And all of my Asian pears were taken from me. And the tree did not survive the winter. And that was that.
Yeah. You know, my brother had that same experience with a lime tree because he's in Chicago. And so actually he's doing pretty well. You know, cause you have to bring it in. It's like, you bring it in, you take it out, you bring it in.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he still has it, but it lasted a good 5 years, and it overtook the living room in the winter. And he was just so proud of it. Man, he took care of that like nothing else. It was just his thing, you know?
So the whole family likes to garden.
You know, I'm probably the biggest one. My mother tries. She does her best, and she enjoys it, and she does get produce. But also external forces kind of hamper her because, you know, we have a cousin that stays with them with a dog, and he runs through like the garden and just destroys it, you know, and then the winter, you know, she loses everything. She tries to bring it all inside, and then she's got a whole office filled with all of her plants, and then they die slowly. And so she starts anew, you know.
Chris, I once had a guest visiting, and they went out into the garden, and I had just planted, you know, I had these beautiful, delicate little violets that were coming up and all over the place. And they were my pride and joy. I love these little violets. And this individual was like, this is a beautiful garden, walks right out there and just walks on all of my little violets. And I think they just weren't paying attention. They just weren't paying attention. They're not used to like being in a garden. They didn't look down. They did not look down. And I was like,
That's a metaphor.
Isn't there like a saying about that? Forgiveness is the scent of the violet that still clings fast to the heel that crushed it.
Whoa.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Is that
I think that's
Michael Mafia thing, or I've never heard that before?
I think it's like Voltaire.
That's beautiful.
That was well said.
I mean, I paraphrased. It probably is more eloquent than that, but yes.
That was pretty eloquent.
Even in the paraphrasing, that was pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
I have a question, Marjorie. Let's talk. So as you were saying before, it gives you all these, gardening gives you all these different relationships with all these heat and temperature. And so let's talk about seasons for a moment. The tempting question is, do you have a favorite season? And do you have a favorite season? But I'd love to know also, what are the different seasons like from your perspective?
Oh, that's actually a really great question. Okay. Wow. So I have to say, every season is wonderful in its own, and I'm going to elaborate. This is not just some pat like, oh, every season's great. Spring, I have to say I really love spring because spring, at the risk of resorting to cliche, it really is, a new beginning. It is when all things become possible. And the shoots of new green are coming up. Everything that survived is pushing through the soil, just reasserting itself and eating light and just all of it. I love the smell of spring. I love the smell of just fresh buds, of just everything just coming back to life. And spring is a busy time, right? Because, if you're a gardener, you're really like, things that can be planted early, you're planting, you're prepping the soil, there's a lot that goes into it. Looking for pests. This year I discovered that I have a lot of white grubs in my soil. I'm going to have to spray some, I bought some powdered beneficial nematodes. I have to hydrate and spray over the soil so they can go and eat these grubs. It's a whole thing. So there's that. But then summer comes along. And summer is the time of harvest, when everything is starting to just be in full bloom, when you can start eating your tomatoes, when you can start really before it's lettuce, it's herbs, it's the light stuff. But then summer is when it gets meaty, when you really start seeing the results of all your hard work, when everything is just verdant and lush. And you walk into the garden and the bees are buzzing and the sun comes down and it's just color and green and it's otherworldly. For me, that's summer. It's the buzz in the air. It's just the smell of something that's just a little dry but yet still green. I don't know how to describe it. And then fall comes along. And fall is wonderful because then there's a different kind of fall harvest. I don't have this in my garden, but that's the time you go apple picking. That's when you go pear picking. Again, the smell of the world changes. It's a little crisper. It's a little it's things are beginning to break down in a different way. Everything's turning golden. The garden is beginning to kind of retire. Things are pulling back. The garden knows it's time to rest. And there's some things that will go to frost. The tomatoes will keep producing, and then you can have your second harvest. You can plant your second round of lettuce, your second round of peas. It's also another time for growing as the temperatures cool down, but it's also a different kind of harvest. And then I don't mind winter, to be honest. I don't like the cold, but as far as being a gardener goes, I don't mind the winter because I know things have to rest. And the plants, some of these plants, they take a break. They have to rest. I'm taking a break. But I'm also using the winter time to think about what comes next. I'm planning ahead for the garden. I'm imagining the things I want to try to grow. I'm researching seeds. I'm researching soil. I'm researching just new techniques that I can experiment with. And so it's a time of rest, but not really, because work is still happening. It's more of an intellectual work. I'm reading, I'm planning, I'm thinking about things, but one doesn't have to rest as long as you think, because by the time March rolls along, if you're starting seeds indoors, March, April, then you can actually start planting your seedlings inside. And so it's, in some ways, it's a short season, winter. And because you still have the opportunity to keep growing things. I mean, yeah, I could grow herbs indoors during the winter and things like that. But as far as prepping for the actual garden, that happens on the early side, March-ish, Yeah, depending on how the weather goes, and out here it's a little colder in the spring, so maybe you start a little later in April. But either way, there's always work to be done, and the time goes fast.
A lot of people who listen to the Superfan podcast probably think of you and horror. I know I do. And as we were preparing for this episode, I started thinking about the very specific, very fun subgenre of horror movies about killer plants. And there's a lot of them, reader. There are a lot of them. Little Shop of Horrors, Evil Dead, Thing from Another World, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. Do you have a favorite killer plant movie?
It doesn't really fit in this category, and it's not a killer plant necessarily. I really love Swamp Thing.
He's plants.
He's plants. He's plants.
He's plants.
Wow. But as far as killer plant movies,
I mean, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is.
Yeah, actually, yes, exactly. But I can't. You know what? That was a good list, David. But I'm a little stumped.
All right. Well, when the spooky feeling is in you again, and you can just take a moment and reflect on this conversation and what might be appropriate to pair with it.
Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say that like gardening rejuvenates you and fills like your creative well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how
it does.
Me. Yeah, so it's whenever I start to get a little burnt out, and I've been doing too much because there's a lot going on, you can just go into the garden,
Yeah.
It feels like time stops,
Chris, have you ever nerded out over a particular plant? Like a very specific type of plant?
Yes, it was stevia.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it was like over a decade ago before anybody knew what stevia was, and it was put into packets. I had a stevia plant, and no one knew what it was, and I would just make people eat the leaves, and I go, taste it. You have to taste it. You can put this in your tea, and it's not sugar, but it tastes like sugar, and just taste it. And I would just go all out on stevia. It was, I was the.
It was you. You're the one.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's you.
I totally love that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Have you done that?
You know what? I nerd out on tomatoes.
Okay.
I think I love the fact that the entire tomato stem has the ability to develop new root systems. And which is why I do this. And some gardeners suggest planting your tomatoes lengthwise instead of straight down. You just strip the leaves off and you plant it horizontally, and then leave the very top above the soil. But it means that you develop deeper root systems if you do that.
Wow!
So I love experimenting with tomatoes. Like one year, I buried like a banana beneath one, and then trying different experiments with fertilizing tomatoes.
Yeah.
That did not do well.
About the banana stuff.
It didn't do well for me.
Yeah. I mean,
no.
The banana stuff, I've never tried it, but I do the banana peels in water, but yeah.
I should have stuck with that. Yeah. People were like, no, you just cut a whole banana and just stick it in there. And I was like, okay. And that was not,
yeah.
It's supposed to, it didn't work for me. That tomato was like, what were you thinking? But I thought, and then also the history of the tomato in this country is really, really fun. And I haven't done a full deep dive, but the superficial stuff I've encountered is that for many years, I actually started reading a book about the history of the tomato in America. But I guess for many years in America, tomatoes were considered poisonous.
The devil.
And exactly. And I didn't know. One of the guys who tried to introduce the tomato to this country would put on these big spectacles in town squares where he would eat a tomato in public and people would wait around to see if he died. And women would faint when he ate the tomato. But I guess in these narratives, women were always fainting. But either way,
That's right.
That's incredible. I love it. It is weird that they're a fruit and not a vegetable, I have to say. I don't know why. Who made that choice? I mean, I know it has to do with how
seeds.
Seeds.
Yeah.
but still, just feels weird.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing. Did you guys ever watch the documentary Biggest Little Farm?
No.
Okay. Biggest Little Farm is a documentary that came out in 2018, which it's a good film in general. But I think if I also had to lay the gardening bug at the foot of something, it might be also that documentary. It's incredibly inspiring. And it talks about this couple who lived in LA, and they had a dog that was just really energetic, and they were being kicked out of their apartment because their landlord just didn't want the dog there. And they loved this dog so much that they were like, let's go buy a farm so this dog can just run wild and do its thing. And so they buy like this patchy, dead, dried up piece of land north of LA, and then basically turn it into, and I'm not really spoiling anything because it's the journey. The documentary is the journey, but they turn it into one of the most thriving biodynamic farms in America.
Wow.
It is such a good documentary.
I cannot wait to see it. That sounds amazing.
I mean,
Marjorie, before we go, is there anything that you wish that more people knew about gardening?
I mean, Chris, I'm sure, I think you'll understand this too. I think with gardening, you have to accept life by life's rules, and you have to accept the imperfections. You have to tolerate things just not working out.
Yeah.
And the fact that when things don't work out in your garden, you know, chances are you'll have to wait an entire year before you get another shot.
Yep. That's so true.
And that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's just the way it is. There truly is a season for all things. And I think gardening really teaches a person that you just have to be patient with things.
Yeah. It does teach you to slow down.
Yeah. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I really, and again, it really does teach you how to take care of things that are bigger and smaller than yourself. Yeah.
Good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. This was great. This
is a lot of fun.
So fun.
This is the first time actually that I've had a chance to nerd out about gardening.
Yeah.
No one ever asked me about it. And so I was like, oh, perfect.
I love that you started during the pandemic, that was like this big moment for you, because it's funny, up until this very moment, I had never thought about the pandemic, COVID, as something just trying to live, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, actually.
Right?
Wow. Yeah. It's true.
It's just trying to do its thing. Man, it was just trying to do its thing.
Trying to do its thing.
I just force my gardening on people. Like they come over and I'm like, "What's my garden?"
Yes. Well, because you want to share it, right?
Yeah.
Like all this effort that goes into creating something, and the pride that goes into actually keeping something alive and being able to eat from your garden.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, when my friends come over, I'm like, want to see my garden? And they're like, can we just talk first? And I'm like, no, come on, come see the garden.
Show you on your way in.
Yes.
Here. Just going to look at this. I'm going to tell you how much something's grown in the past couple days.
Chris, you have to send Marjorie pictures of that cactus. When Chris moved into this place, there was this cactus, and it really looked like it was on its last legs. It was, the previous tenants did not care at all. They were not tenants or shepherds of any kind. Right? And this poor cactus really reflected that. It was gray. It was limp. There was no turgor.
Oh.
Chris walks in there after how long did it take? That thing is going to take over the house now. It is just green, and its spikes are really out there, and it's constantly growing.
Yeah, I can't even stop it.
There's flowers and fruit. It's it's gone insane.
Chris, you have the knack. You have the knack.
I've only been here 5 months now. Yeah, it's May. I moved in at the top of the year. So.
Oh no, that cactus was waiting for you. You moved in. It was like hallelujah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't stop it from growing now. I have to actually trim it because it goes so far out that you can't walk past it to get out. So
That's incredible.
Yeah, it just sprouts more.
It's like 10 feet tall, 12 feet tall?
Oh, it's got to be.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it is so big, and it has arms that go everywhere and these paddles, that just...
Yeah, it's a native, too, I found out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see a picture of that.
I will send you a picture of that.
Thank you.
It's nuts. I'm very proud of it. Yes.
I think you should be. I think it clearly loves you.
Yeah.
Marjorie, such one. David, thank you so much for introducing us to Marjorie. And Marjorie,
this was such a pleasure, and it was so much fun. And it's really lovely speaking to kindred spirits who just, love gardening, who are curious about gardening. I mean, again, Chris, it's a joy. It's a joy beyond all joys to be in a garden.
I love this. Yes. And I love that we can do this on this podcast. I mean, it's so far, I think that every guest we've had on here is just lit up when they talk about like their passions. And that's something that I absolutely adore. So this has been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you bet.
Absolutely.
Stay out of trouble.
No, David. No, I won't.
Well, then stay spooky.
Well, that I can do.
All right. Thanks, Marjorie.
Thank you all.
Every episode of the Superfan podcast is accompanied by a cocktail and a dessert recipe inspired by the guests and the conversation. The recipes will be listed in full in the Superfan Signal Substack. And this time we are going to list the dessert recipe first. So this week, since we are talking about gardening, I thought it would be a little appropriate to do something with some crushed Oreos resembling dirt and have some little gummy veggies poking out. Also have some pudding in there, and it's very delicious, and it's also kid-friendly. And now we're going to have David Hyde come in and tell us what he paired with that dessert.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things to do is to figure out the right cocktail and or mocktail to pair with food. And so knowing how sweet the Oreo is, I was like, what goes with Oreo? It's like, well, milk goes with Oreo. And I thought about going with Bailey's, and I thought about a White Russian, but I landed on a 3-ingredient espresso martini. And if you are wondering, reader, what is a 3-ingredient espresso martini and why did I pick it? It is because it is made with black cow vodka, which is the world's first pure milk vodka. Yes, you heard that right. Yes, your mind will explode and your belly will love you later. It is delicious. Now, if that is too sweet or you don't feel like having a drink, you can try a 0-proof garden toddy, which is a non-alcoholic herbal hot toddy with hints of apple and lemon.
That sounds amazing.
Both sound so good.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Thank you. Thank you for the prompt. You're like the sound person in the back. Thunder. Thunder. So one of my favorite writers is Amy Stewart, and she has written an amazing book called The Drunken Botanist. And it is a book about the plants that create the world's great drinks. So it has amazing recipes, but mostly it's just a book for science nerds who occasionally like to have a really good cocktail. Terrific writing, really, really fun.
That is amazing. I cannot believe I haven't heard of this. And
read my
I'm
mind.
going to have to borrow that book from you, David. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. I love that. There's so much great stuff in the world that I haven't heard of.
Yeah, that author I discovered because my son collected her other books, not about drinking, when he was like 7 years old. And it was all about the history of plants and insects. And then next to it, I was like, what? This book is absolutely for me.
Yeah, that's really cool, especially because, I love, herbal stuff, especially in drinks. And this looks like it is right up my alley because it looks like you can plant your own. Like, I already do that, by the way. I have all the ingredients for mojitos that I'm planting in my garden. I also have, so there's mint and there's limes, and I do, and now I'm blanking on what else I do, but I do the ingredients to garnish my drinks, which I think is pretty fun.
Yeah, I have to say, one of my favorite parts of living in LA is having the lemon tree in the backyard.
Yes.
My sister got me for my birthday a couple of years ago. So fun.
The Superfan podcast is a production of Superfan Media. This episode was edited by Bryant Dillon, with production help by Fanbase Press, who is the title sponsor of Season 1. The Superfan podcast logo was designed by Chriswell Lappin, whose design work can be seen at chriswelllappin.com. 3 L's, 2 P's, chriswelllappin.com. The theme song was written by a friend of the podcast, Dan Schulman, and performed by Low in the Shag. And now, a word about our sponsors.
Fanbase Press believes that stories matter. Acknowledging the importance of stories and the impact of storytelling is at the core of the organization. Universal communication through stories allows us to examine the essentials of human existence, to understand ourselves better, and to grow and heal. To pass on important values, knowledge, and lessons to the next generation, and to connect with one another through empathy and compassion.